to the Big John Bass Show. Welcome to the Big John Bass Show.
Hello legends, welcome to the Big John Bass Show. I'm your host, Big John Bass. Today's episode is my monthly guest episode. Today, I've got an up-and-coming podcaster. I'm really excited about this guy. I think he's going to do big bits in the game. Flav, all right, mate.
Good.
How does it feel? How does it feel that one of your protégés is introducing you on a pod? Does it feel weird, or do you feel proud? How do you feel?
No, I'm not. That's very uncomfortable. The fact that you would refer to yourself as a prodigy. No, a protégé. Because we're just talking to a microphone, don't we? And you're like, oh, I could do that. And every other wanker under the sun has also decided to start a podcast. So I think, why not? I think, to be fair, John, about, when was it? Probably about 6 months, a year ago, I did say to you, you could do this. You should do this. But you had a job and you were busy and you were earning making shitloads in IT, weren't you? So
making shitloads out of computers. So I thought, but now I've got a bit more time. So I thought, just something to do, innit? Something to do, a bit of fun.
Yeah, and you're just having a decent opinion and a strong enough opinion in order for it to be interesting. It doesn't have to be right, but as long as it's interesting to listen to, then you're halfway there, John. So, yeah, mate, it's good to see.
Well, thanks, mate.
Listen to the first couple of episodes.
Oh, yeah?
It's hard. Doing one-man pods is difficult. I often do I much prefer not to, but when on the Patreon after a game, not everyone's around, they're at the game, whatever it might be, and I do 15 minutes, and it's not... It's easier than you think. The idea of doing it is much more difficult than it is, but once you start, it's just not... It's weird just talking into a mic without no one else coming back.
It is weird, but that's not the hardest thing for me, because as you know, you can sort of, I'm a bit like Ben Bowman, you can sort of wind me up and just let me go. Just talk, it's fine, and I'm all right. Sort of, I feel like I am talking to the audience, so it's fine. I don't mind it so much. My biggest issue is just drinking, mate. And anyone who's listened to the first
gulping gallons of water.
Just it's become a thing now. No, well, I was just like, obviously, I tried to sort of move away from the mic, but clearly. I'm just gulping water, just some sort of really sick, weird ASMR episodes. I didn't realise that I was drinking so much, but now I'm like, I don't want to take that away because I feel like maybe that's my thing. That's my niche.
When you're talking and just talking, you get dry throat. You need to lubricate. So
this is what I mean. I'm trying to be my authentic self. I get thirsty. Like Suni.
When you do podcasting and stuff like this, and podcasting and TikToks, right? The people that are the biggest fans of what you do or enjoy your content the most are the most vicious. Like people on the Patreon, I feel like you hate me. I don't like you've been paying for this content for years, and it feels like you hate everything I say. I don't know what it's all about, but keep lubricated, John.
Yeah, I'll stay lubricated. So I'll make sure. Don't worry, I'll have some big gulps during this pod. But so today for these monthly shows, I didn't want to just get you on, mate, because obviously. I imagine there's not a single person who listens to this pod who doesn't know me from the Fighting Cock. And obviously we'll talk about, each game, what happened in the last game, what's happening in the next game. So I wanted to use these monthly pods to try and do something a little bit different. So I've spoken before on the Fighting Cock about, I think that the whole club needs to look at from a strategic level, like what it is we want to do, right? From Vinay and the board and the owners, the Lewis family, Enoch, whatever you want to call them, through to director of football, Langer, Paratici, and then Frank and the players and what happens on the pitch. So what I thought we could do is basically we'll sort of go through in those sections. We'll start with what's happening on the pitch, right? Talk about the results, performances, players, the normal stuff we would cover, and then we can kind of go levels up, right? So we're covering all those bits that make up the sort of DNA from top to bottom. So let's just jump into the manager, start with what's happening on the pitch. Right, we don't necessarily need to go Thomas Frank, because I think we've spoken many times about where we're at with Thomas Frank.
Can I shock you?
Go on. You Frank in?
I'm Frank in now. Fuck it. I just feel like, I'm not. I'm absolutely hate his guts. I want to see him. I want to see him gone immediately. But my old man is he's one of the few staunch Frank inners. And every game we're talking about it, I just want to scream and go, just get him out of my club. Get him out of my club. But my dad's always like, if this isn't a problem necessarily with Thomas Frank, it's a problem with Tottenham, and it's a problem with the players that we've got. And then the things that we focus on a lot is inability to make simple passes or find the right pass, or even pass in front of your teammate as opposed to directly at his feet. So which has to slows everything down. I don't know if that's instruction or not from Thomas Frank, but there is a problem with the players. While I'm Frank out categorically, I have seen, and I know it's a bit of a taboo, but I've definitely seen improvement in the way we play. And the game against Burnley, despite us being Burnley are an arse team, it was a good performance that we should have won, but it was defensive lapses. I think that's hard to argue with.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about stats and data, right? Like, I'll only ever use them if they support my specific argument.
Of course, yeah.
But apparently, and I haven't looked, so I'll just take in their word for it,
Yeah.
the underlying data has been improving, right?
Okay.
In the last few games. It has been improving.
I haven't noticed that. I didn't know that someone's been saying that.
People are saying it, Flav. People are saying it. Now, I will also point to the fact we've played terrible teams, so it should be improving. And the ultimate data point, which is how many points you get, hasn't really been improving. So I understand the logic of like underlying numbers then leads to like, you know, the ultimate numbers. I get that. But it's sort of, there has to be context with any data. And I do think the context is worrying, which is like we've played teams we should have done well against. And yes, that underlying data might be good, but the results have been really bad.
Should have been better done based on what? Like, we are their level. These are our peers at the moment.
But this is the thing, though, isn't it? It's like, is there a single player in the West Ham team that you would take at Spurs? Somerville, right?
Yeah,
Maybe Bowen?
Probably would take Bowen as well,
Right.
yeah.
That's it. Out of that whole, squad.
And right, let me ask you a question back, John.
Go
Is
on.
that our ego?
I don't think it is
Do we
right.
think
Because,
these players are better than they are?
well, you know, I don't think our players are great, so I'm only basing it on that.
Well, West Ham's not a fair one, right? Because West Ham are garbage apart from
All
some
right,
of
Burnley.
No, none
Burnley.
of them. Probably
Right.
none of them there. But we battered Burnley. We should
have won, but we didn't, though. So this is the same
but
thing
that happens.
as...
That's football.
I know, but this is the same point, right? Which is, I'm saying we should have won against them before the game started. And you're saying, yeah, but we're their level. But now we played well and we should have won the game. I'm saying, yeah, but we didn't. So we have to look at it and just realistically say those are bad results. Because, okay, let's say we are their level.
Yeah, they are
They're
bad
who we
results.
need to beat, right? That's who we should be beating, and we didn't beat them.
Sure, but if you're making a case for Frank and you look at the data rather than the emotion, because obviously the fans, for example, in the away end, and I'm not digging them out at all. How dare I even consider that? But is that they were singing sideways and backwards everywhere we go, which is exactly opposite of what was happening on the pitch. Which we weren't playing sideways. We were playing through the middle. We were playing down the wings, and we were getting at them. The point is there's this. There are, and I'm with everybody. But there is this predefined or predetermined idea about what Thomas Frank can do at Spurs now, and they're almost certainly correct. But you cannot not say that there have been signs of improvement. Should he save his job? No, probably not. But it looks like he's staying to the end of the season. So what are we going to do? Moan about him for the next 4 months?
But this is the thing, isn't it? It's like, I think let's forget Thomas Frank, which I know is really difficult for this conversation when we're specifically talking about what's happening on the pitch. But I do think you're right. Like, there are definitely, I mean, Dortmund was great. That is the most enjoyment I've had from a Thomas Frank team all season.
Yeah. I heard an interesting thing about Dortmund, John.
Go on.
Was that they aren't used to, the only way they know how to play is what's successful for them in the domestic league. It was by some Libero podcast, which is quite good, full of journalists, but it's quite good. And they're saying that Dortmund in the Bundesliga, this works. And it just shows you this kind of disparity of quality. Moreover, less perhaps quality in the players that you're buying, but the speed and physicality of the Premier League. Dortmund just couldn't cope with a very average Spurs side. So that was an interesting thing because, yeah, I agree with you. It was easily the most enjoyable 90 minutes I've had for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, they were rubbish, weren't they? Dortmund.
Pretty average, yeah. I was like, how have we got so much space?
They were
so much space.
They were so bad. Like, I know. I was obviously digging out the receipts for saying like Spence should play left wing, but at the time I said it was basically when we were in injury crisis. I went back through and I was like, I knew I said it, and then I realised that we basically had no players at the time, and I was just going, I'll just stick him out there. He'll probably do all right.
You have got a habit of that, John.
I know.
I'm sure I said something 2 years ago that directly aligns to this moment. Let me find it.
Yeah. I've got basically an elephant brain, so I can remember anything that I've ever said.
You said.
but that means I can also remember the stuff that doesn't work, and I just choose to not publish that publicly. Right? That's how I play the game. But he looked like prime Ronaldo against them. They just looked terrible. And then when we obviously tried to accommodate him into this Burnley game, it was obvious that isn't a long-term solution for us. So I do think there are issues in the sense that there's clearly a quality gap from us and the league and where we think we need to be. I don't think it's currently as big as the results and performances are showing. In other words, like I think I said on the Fighting Cock the other week, I thought Thomas Frank was going to like raise the floor, and actually what's happened is we've fallen through the floor and we're now in the basement trying to scrabble our way back out of it. We're in Fritzl's dungeon, right? And I do think that is the issue, and maybe he's starting to lower the ladder, right? And a couple of the players are grabbing onto it and starting to pull themselves up, which is why the underlying numbers are improving. Maybe he is having an impact. And look, there is this thought to me where I basically don't rate him from a proper football man view, which is how his sort of character is, how his persona is as the manager of Spurs. One of the things that I liked about Ange was like he batted for us, he like wanted to elevate the club, and he fought for the reputation. There were other things in his character that didn't work, the Chelsea cup in his ear thing and all that. Yeah. But with Frank, there's nothing for me to cling on to on that side of it. He is very much like spreadsheet accountant type manager, and so I find that difficult. But trying to put my bias aside, I am like, if he just kept going, if he was just given time, regardless of what we all think, right, would this ever turn around? Yeah, and that's the bit that's just, I just don't know, right? Because we don't have much to hang on to, do we?
I think we spoke of, I had this conversation, but we have nothing to hang on to at all, right? We've got his evidence that he did it at a smaller club at Brentford, where the expectations and demands on him are completely different in the Premier League. However, I think if you give him enough time and enough money, he probably would eventually get it right. But the problem is I don't know how long it would take him, and I don't know if I have the patience to let it happen. The other issue he's got is, he obviously has an understanding of football, a tactical understanding of football, of the abilities of his players, because of the access and his experience of years. Not just 10,000 hours, 100,000 hours, right? He's an expert. Plus, he has the access to the players and he understands their qualities in a way that, as fans, we can never do. But we've got to make our assumptions based on what we can see, which is just 90 minutes every 3 days. So, to think that he can't do this from a tactical perspective and as a football operator, I think it's more likely that he eventually will be a success than just be an outright failure, right? I think eventually he would get it right at Spurs. His issue is that he doesn't help himself by the winners every time he opens his mouth. He isn't good at press conferences. No. He doesn't know how to be a statesman for the football club. And he is not Ange Postecoglou. I think if you amalgamated those two...
Yeah, perfect.
It probably would be a really good manager there, but I don't know.
But sorry, mate. This is going to be the issue, though. Is let's say that's true. Let's say just given enough time, eventually it gets to a point where we're, let's just say, competitive, right? Again,
yeah.
We could be in a situation where we run out of rope, right? Where basically it's not reached the bottom yet. We have to get to the bottom before he can really get us back up. That could be a point where we get relegated, and so. Whilst I agree with you, right? If you just double down, right? If you just double down on the manager, like I thought we should have basically, this discussion is what we should have done with Poch. We should have said to the players, look, don't matter if you lose the rest of every other game the rest of the season, we're not sacking him because we know there's this big rebuild. He's our guy. You need to just get on board with this new way of playing. We're going to bring in some new recruits. We're going to turn the squad over. It's going to be a couple of fallow seasons, but just deal with it. He's not going, so stop downing tools, just get on with it, right? Which is seemingly what we're doing with Frank, where we're basically saying, like, you've got to stick with it. The difference here is we could be in a position where it does slip closer and closer and closer to it becoming realistic that we could be relegated. I'm not saying now we're going to get relegated, right, just to be clear.
No, but we're all thinking it. You're mad.
You can't keep losing games, right? You can't just keep going, well, we're not going to get relegated. Like I heard Al talking about in the Fighting Cock, realistically, though, we'll just win some games. Sure, agreed. That's how football goes. We'll beat City or we'll beat United unexpectedly. That's how typically football goes. What if we don't? What if we just keep losing? That's how teams get relegated. Every team can't go, nah, that's how football goes. Sometimes you just win some games. But they don't. That's why they get relegated. So
Yeah, no, you can't put yourself in the position where you think, like, my heart of hearts, I think we can find 12 points in 15 games, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that we're even having to have this conversation is alarming. And we might not do that. I mean, the evidence since for the last month or two is that, we're not in a great position. I can't remember the last time we won a game in the league. Who is it? Brentford at home, maybe?
Palace.
Yeah, fair. Palace, I think there are other teams around us that, like, Palace are in free fall. I think they're in real danger of going down, Palace. But anyway, so I agree with you in the Poch argument that would have been the time, but we were 5 years into him then, right? So even I was sort of hankering for something different and was really excited about Jose Mourinho. I think I want him sacked, but I'm weirdly, I don't know, hard to explain, comforted in a way by the fact that the board have gone, he's not going. He's here to the end of the season, whether you like, and then we'll review. If that's what they have said. Maybe they've said, don't worry, you're here for 3 seasons, and then review. I don't know. It's what you would see previously, and it's embarrassing, is that we've ended 3 of the last 6 seasons with an interim manager. 2, like, so Stellini, Ryan Mason twice. That's an embarrassingly badly run football club. Do you remember going into when Ange took over? I was like, I don't know where we are. We don't have a director of football that's just been banned from European football. You got Andrews coming. You didn't even know Andrew was there. You got Daniel Levy back in control of the footballing aspects of the football club. Stellini Conte disappearing for months, getting sacked. Stellini taking over, then Ryan Mason taking over in the space of. It was terrible, wasn't it? And I just feel like this is. I just can't do that again. And I feel like maybe you'll get it right, but I don't know, man.
I don't know. But let me pose this question to you, mate, because we had this exact same scenario last year, albeit this scenario last year was much more realistic.
Yeah.
Why don't we just sack off the league, right? Let's just stay up. 17th's fine. And let's win the Champions League. Because in Europe, and I'm not just talking about that Dortmund game, in Europe, we are actually, and I'm going to use the word, exceptional.
Yeah.
We haven't conceded a goal at home for ages. We beat everyone that's in front of us. We're really good away from home in Europe. We just seem to have this like formula. And I know a lot of, again, the sort of tacticos and modern football fans do not, for whatever reason, believe in winning mentality, passion, winning breeds winning, that kind of intangible emotional stuff. But if it was me and I was in that dressing room, I'd be like, we did win a European Cup last season. We do know what it takes. We do have a World Cup winning captain in our dressing room. When it really matters, we can compete with these teams. Like, we didn't get it over the line against PSG in the Super Cup. And I know it was a friendly, and I know they were on the beach. I know all of this stuff. But I feel like, in a weird way, we're better against better teams. And we sort of lift our game for when the games mean something. So maybe, given that Europe is not just a farmers' league, but is a farmers' continent, maybe there's something here for us, mate. Would you just risk it all and go, right, Thomas, you've just got to win the Champions League? I
think the problem you've got with that, I get it, but most of the teams we're going to come up with against in the last 16 aren't all the farmers. There's like 6 English teams. And then you've got Bayern Munich, PSG and Real Madrid and Barcelona there. So while I love your idea, and I think it's a great idea, and look, we've got to the final of the Champions League with average players, barring Son and Kane. You had an aging Vertonghen, an aging Alderweireld, and a midfield of Winks, Sissoko, I can't even remember, Lucas Moura leading the line. Kane was injured. We got to the final that way. So while there's a chance to go far in that competition, as long as we are at no risk of going down, then 100% Champions League should be prioritised over this. If not, only because it's the last semblance of potential glory, and by glory I mean every win at this stage. If we beat Frankfurt on Wednesday, every win at this stage would be glorious. If we get through to the last 16, plus it's worth shitloads of money as well, right? So yeah. I mean, I absolutely think you should prioritise those games for sure. Yeah, why not?
I think we should.
What else are we doing then? Otherwise,
exactly. Because the thing is, right? It's like the league position. This was exactly the argument last time. Realistically, now, like what 10th is like realistically based on where we are, it would be. So you get nothing for that, really. There's no glory in finishing 10th to 17th. Like, really, who cares? And look, I'm not saying we've got a real crack at, like with the Europa League. That was we could do it.
If you finish in 17th, it's 3.5 million per place.
Okay, so from a financial point of view, but I'm talking just glory, right? Just the enjoyment of it.
I don't want to finish 17th again, though.
I don't either. 16th is fine.
I'll take 16th.
16th and a Champions League. That's perfect. So yeah, look, I think there's an element of we need as a club some good PR, because let's say we do finish 12th. If we got to a semi-final of the Champions League, it's much easier to go to players like, look, we had a tough domestic season, but like you can see, we've got decent players here. We can do stuff in Europe. Join us because we want to qualify for the Champions League again this season. That's what you're joining. You're joining a team that's going to finish top 4. Come and get involved. Come and help build us. If we just go out immediately in the knockout stages and then finish 16th, 17th, 12th, whatever, what are you selling? There's nothing to pin it on. So I do think we need at least a good run in the Champions League with the rest of the season remaining. My other optimistic part of what's happening on the pitch is the same reason as I sort of jokingly predicted that we would beat Dortmund, because it's the most Spursy thing to happen, which is a game you should definitely not win. Suddenly you win for no reason. This February month that I've been saying is basically like we'll get 0 points. I'm now starting to go, no, we'll get loads of wins for no reason in this run. We'll just beat teams.
Yeah. I think you've seen it happen before.
Yeah.
And we're not that far off these other sides. Like, well, I mean, yeah, in terms of coach and money, we're miles behind actually those teams, like Man City, for example. But we always just seem to turn up against them. The North London derby, I think, will be a little bit different this time than it was last time. Can I just say, mate, how glorious it is that there's this sort of unified hate against Arsenal across every fan base. It's like finally everyone's seeing what we've known for years. Like, it's brilliant. It's absolutely superb. Anyway, yeah. So I think we probably will pick up points. We probably will get a win here and there. Just not Man City.
Yeah, just let them walk through us. That's fine.
I mean, we don't want to lose again, but
yeah. Look, put it this way, when the game kicks off, this is what I always like. People always get me wrong with this kind of stuff, because I'm like, when a game kicks off, I want us to hammer them 8-0, right? Because I'm a Spurs fan. When the game's there, if we score, I'll be celebrating. If they score, I'll be gutted. If we lose, I'll get over it much quicker, because I'll be like, cool, this is great. And this time is not as bad as the last time. The last time was basically, we win, we hand Arsenal the title. In that scenario, I'd have fucking kicked the ball in my own net. There's no way you should be allowed to think that, you should be completely entitled to think, let's just throw the game as a Spurs fan. I think that's a completely fair view. In the same way as it's a completely fair view to go, no, we should try and win every game. I just can't give them anything. This time, it's not as impactful, but it would soften the blow for me somewhat if we lost this game, because one, it's like, well, it's one more step towards Frank getting fired, and also it's a momentum shifter.
Yeah.
Going back to the Arsenal thing, remember when in the Poch days when we just go into a game and we just win, and then afterwards we do a pod or whatever, and you'd just be sort of floating about with this like feeling of like, we're really good and this is great, like this is lovely. I felt like that this morning and I couldn't figure out why. And then I remembered, like, I was leaving the gym. My coach is an Arsenal fan, and he was absolutely broken this morning. He was he was like, oh, that goal went in, and I just felt like we just bottled it. We're just bottling it again. Their players' heads went down. They just knew it was happening again. This is classic us. And I'm there just going, oh yeah, really, yeah, all right, yeah. It just made me feel, lovely, mate. So long may that continue.
Yeah.
Right, let's go. So we've moved from the manager, what's happening on the pitch. Let's go a level up, right? Now we're Langer, Paratici level, right? And we're looking very much at, well, a couple of things here. One, we're in the middle of the transfer window. Or actually, we're rapidly approaching the end of the transfer window. So I wanted to get into what are we doing, basically, with transfers?
Yeah.
And then what happens like after this? So let's talk about the transfer window. Where are you at so far with this window? Like, what's your overall thoughts about this?
It's probably not. I'm fairly indifferent about it. It doesn't. I'm not that bothered. I know, like, there are people that are angry out there. Go, just sign the players. Just sign the players. But who is signing? I can't think of a single signing I thought, yeah, we should definitely have done that. I don't know. I can't think of any. Now, and in the January transfer window, like, what? I can't even think of a single signing anyone's made. Like, apart from Spurs, who've signed Gallagher and Sousa. However, there is a subtext, isn't there, or a context to this, in that the current administration is taking on the ill feeling that was left by Daniel Levy and created by Daniel Levy, which is the management of the wage structure, and really not being in a conversation to sign top players in Europe where other clubs were able to do it. Like Chelsea, for example, even when they were below us, of signing players like Cole Palmer and, you know, who were because they had an ambition and they had a way of operating that was just completely devoid at Tottenham. And Daniel Levy, for a long, long time, became a reactive reactive chairman. And so there is this pre-built idea about what Tottenham is, that if Chelsea had this window, there'd be less complaints, or Arsenal had this window, there'd be less complaints. It's just that there's a problem at Tottenham. And I think the current, you know, incumbents have inherited a lot of that, mainly because ENIC is still there, rather than just Daniel Levy still there. And the summer the season hasn't been great, but I would much rather them not splurge now and have a shitload of money in the summer if the targets are more available and more people are more open to come, because you risk overspending on a lesser player because of what are we trying to do this season? We're not going to win the Champions League, so staying up would be the reason. So I think that there has been a cash injection that was there for something, and I think spending it correctly would be the best way forward, and January is not the best time to do it. That's how I feel about it. So I'm not too bothered by what we've done, the inactivity. I know that lots of people are bothered by it.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of one of the reasons. The reason that people are a bit frustrated. Well, there's obviously like many reasons. Right? We're not doing very well. So immediately as soon as the transfer window opens,
Of course, yeah.
it's a very like simple fix. You just go and get something that will make a difference, right? So I get that, but I do think that the ownership, and we'll obviously talk about them in a bit, but they didn't help themselves with this. Like, we're going to make funds available. There's 100 million war chest. And it's like, cool, but then...
The war chest is a fan-created expression, right? I don't think they ever said war chest.
Fine.
They just said they've injected £100 million into the club.
Either way, the number is the bit I'm focusing on. I'm calling it a war chest. Call it whatever you like. 100 million cash injection, 100 million money to spend, budget, whatever, word you want to use. They said there's 100 million to spend. So as a fan base who's been like, we don't spend, even though we do spend money, we don't spend money, suddenly all of a sudden you've got this cash injection. So I think the expectation from fans was like, great, we're going to see a bit of a sea change in the way that Spurs spend money and go over and above what they can spend. Because again, I know that's been a misconception that we don't spend money. We spend a lot of money. We just spend it badly. Yeah. And I've been making the case for a long time that it's like, if you fall behind, you have to overspend to catch up, right? And I thought this was a good sign that maybe we're going to do that and we're going to start throwing our weight around a little bit and take a few more risks and try and get things done. Also, as for like other teams aren't doing that much business, true, other teams aren't in as much of a state as we are, right? Like, we are currently where we are in the league, but like, we should be, as a club, in terms of what we pay and the ambitions of the club, is to be in the top 6, right? Broadly speaking, and we're nowhere near that. We're like miles off of it. So again, it feels like, well, we need to catch back up. I take your point. January is not really the window where you go, okay, cool, here's how we reset the squad. It is more where you go, what can we bring in to like help us get our objectives for this season? Now, the objectives for this season now are basically make sure we definitely stay up and just finish as high as we can in the league. Let's take the Champions League out of it for a minute. So the signings we made, Conor Gallagher, and obviously we're looking to bring in Robertson, that to me kind of makes sense. I don't really have an issue with that. I think they're pretty solid signings, and I do think they both add, again, that intangible stuff that tacticos hate, that like grit and winning mentality that I do think is real and do think is important. And you need people that have those standards. They know what it takes to win and get stuff over the line. So I've got no issue with what we've done. I've got an issue with how much we've done, because I take your point. I'm not going, we should sign this person, that person, that person, no-brainer signings, like I have done in previous like windows where it's been obvious that we need that type of player and they're available and we should go and get them. But it's not our job, mate. It's not our job to do that, right? It should be the job of Langer and Paratici, but more so Langer, who's going to be here after Paratici leaves, to figure this stuff out, right? You've got a team of scouts and you've got Andy Robertson and Conor Gallagher. Like, but what about the issues that we've had? Where is this deep-lying passer that we need desperately? Where are the sort of like starting first choice left wing and right wing? Now, maybe you can't get them in January, but we've not even been linked. Right, like if you
yeah, I know, but linked doesn't mean anything, John, does it?
But it does though, because let's say, for example, I don't know, I'll just use him because he's like high profile. Rafa Leao, right? He's like, people talk about him at AC Milan, left midfielder, attacking midfielder, high profile name, right? If Spurs went, I will give you 60 million in January, and they went, well, obviously not, we're going to reject it, that would be in the press, right? And we'd know, okay, that's who we identified. If we didn't get him, you go, right, well, Spurs intend to go for him in the summer. You'd go, okay, fair enough. They don't want to let him go, but we're after him. We're not after anyone. Right? It's not out there. And I just don't understand why there doesn't seem to be more hubbub, for want of a better word, about what we're trying to do business-wise. And that, I think, is frustrating for people who can see there are issues with this squad now that we need to do something, and seemingly there's just not that much activity, and the activity that is happening is very route one, right? It's like Conor Gallagher. Everyone knows who Conor Gallagher is, what he brings. You didn't need Langer for that, right? Like, I could have told you that. Oh, we need, we want to bring in some cover for number 8. Conor Gallagher? Like, it's not, I think that's the issue, right? And so my question to you is this, mate. Is Langer a big problem?
Well, there's one player that's moved in January of note, and that's Semenyo, of 72 million. Other than that, we're the biggest spenders in the window. So I appreciate we've got to move the needle and become better because we're so far behind. But I think it's far beyond playing staff. And if you actually look at the squad without injuries, it's massively bloated. So you can't keep adding players. Well, you can keep adding players, but then there's issues with like financial fair play and competition for places, player happiness, that sort of thing. The answer to the question is I don't have a great deal of faith in Johan Langer, and I would hope that there was a more capable director of football out there that we can get in, but I can't say with any authority on who that should be because I don't really know a great deal about all the directors of footballers out there. But what you've got to do is create a environment in which the very best will want to come and work at your football club, which is the job of Venkatesham. So at this stage, it should feel like Langer's a stopgap to what we're trying to do, because he has his acquisitions at Tottenham haven't been incredible. They were good at Villa because we looked at it the other day and we went through the players he'd signed, and there's some really good players there. But yeah, what he's done at Spurs by and large hasn't been fantastic, and he doesn't fill you with the utmost confidence that you will be able to sort this out. And by the same token, Paratici, it's a slightly concerning decision that these dual sporting partnership role was created rather than just having a director of football who's good at all of this stuff or has employees underneath him that can do these things, because it feels like again we don't know, as fans we always have to make these bold assumptions on very little information because we don't really know how Langer operates, we just have to guess. But it feels like he's kind of like a glorified scout where he's great at finding young talent that you can hopefully mould into. I don't know if he was responsible for Vuskovic, but definitely for Baraval and Gray, who are Premier League ready footballers at 19, which is a rare thing. But and then you got Paratici, who's essentially a deal maker of finding opportunistic signings and getting them over the line. Great skill, great to have that in your locker. But he's not a director of football who needs to identify an entire playing style, a ethos, and an environment of which that football club can thrive. And there isn't anyone doing that currently, it seems. And hopefully there is work to be done in terms of getting them in. But it feels like it is Langer at the moment.
And that, mate, I think you've hit the nail on the head for me. And that is why I wanted to do these episodes in this way, because I sort of feel like that is what is ultimately missing from the club, is there isn't a consistent through line of like what we're trying to achieve, what the direction of travel is, right? And again, we can get into this when we talk about sort of the board and the owners and stuff, about how they set the agenda for it. But fundamentally, the person who really makes the football side of that DNA, of that culture, whatever you want to call it, is your director of football. And it does feel like we've been pretty muddled with our approach to it as a club, right? Like you said, Paratici, deal maker, contacts in Syria, blah, blah, blah. Fine, worked out pretty well. Kulusevski, a few other signings, fine. And Langer, again, fine from a chief scout, finding new young talent type thing, great. But who is setting the agenda? Who is saying, like, this is the type of football we want to play, this is the type of manager that we need, and therefore this is the direction of travel that we go forward? Because, and this sort of goes into the Frank situation, is really it should be the director of football who's making the decision on, like, the manager, and are they going to fit with what we're doing and how that works, right? And they make strong recommendations. It's basically like pretty much their call with a final decision from the boardroom. The problem is it feels like basically Langer doesn't have that control, and then it's going back to Vinay, and before that Levy, right? They would make the call. And so you've got this weird power structure where the people who know about football aren't actually making the final football decisions, right? And like, think about Levy's time. Transfers, Levy. Managers for hiring, firing, Levy. But we had director of footballs in that time. We had someone that was supposed to be, you know, we obviously had Scott Munn for a small amount of time. We've had Kamoli. We've had like all these different people that were supposed to do that job, but never really had the power to execute stuff. And that to me is a problem.
Yeah, Scott Munn didn't. He was a director of football, but he couldn't operate under Daniel Levy. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Whether it's Scott Munn or Kamali or
yeah.
Baldini, remember we had him.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right. There wasn't the room to thrive, and the club was much smaller then. But yeah, you're correct. It just hasn't worked for a long time, and most of that is down to Daniel Levy.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing. And again, maybe this is a good time to sort of switch it into like the boardroom level and like the leadership level of the club. This is the stuff that they need to really understand and think about. And Vinay, the Lewis family, they really need to sort of set a clear agenda. And maybe, look, going all the way back to Thomas Frank, maybe it is a case of let's just get to summer, right? Let's reassess in the summer. We can see now that this is all disjointed. Paratici's gone. We've scraped, stayed up. We haven't won anything again. It's all been very messy. Hasn't worked with Thomas Frank. And they can reassess, right? And what I would urge them to do is to really think about, okay, what do we want this club to be? Like, because one of the things that Levy would always talk about is just like making us like one of the most attractive propositions. But it always felt like very much sort of image of like this big business and like we look fancy. It was never really about the football side. And I know that that's sort of implicit because, if you're a big flashy side, typically you're doing well. And we haven't been able to match our business acumen with what happens on the pitch. Mm. They need to sit down and go, right, we want to try and win the Premier League in the next 5 years. That's what we're going to try and do. And we're going to be a team that's like, free-flowing, attacking football. So like we are a brand that is associated with that type of football and that wins things. Okay, cool. That we all agreed that's what we want. Yes. Now we're going to hire. Sorry, Langer. Like, unless you want to stay on as a chief youth scout, you're gone. Let's find a director of football who's done that somewhere else to a successful level. Doesn't need to be Man City's or other, like, it could be something left field, but their like motivation is build a free-flowing attacking team that can ultimately win. And then you say to them, right, your job is to find a manager who will fit that philosophy and build a coaching staff and scouting network that can do that and have this like through line that is all working in the same direction, because it does feel like we're a Frankenstein's monster, doesn't it, mate? And we're just sort of everyone's pulling in different directions, and they don't really know what we're trying to do. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair. It's exactly where we are at the moment, and having that through line from owners down to players is exactly what you'd want to be happening at Spurs and what you see happening at other football clubs. That's not to suggest that it guarantees any kind of success. Because all it generally comes down to is decision making. Have you made the right decision or not? And generally, you don't know until 6 months into a season. So, like, Man United have that structure in place and had Amorim, and have now seemingly lucked into Carrick. So, yes, you would need that, and that structure behind the scenes at Spurs. We've done a few episodes at the lab about this very subject, and there is issues with the back room structure, and especially given the fact that Paratici's been here 2 minutes and is now going to Fiorentina, and we don't have a director of football, that the structure isn't right behind the scenes. And there are people out there that are going, get rid of Langer, which is, much more fair than saying get rid of Venkatesham. I don't rate Venkatesham. He's literally been here 6 or 7 months. He was coming to do one job. His boss was fired, and now he's going, right, forget all that. You're now running the football club. It could take him 2 years to get this right. We've got to be. There's one thing sacking the manager after 7 months. Even that, in that instance, is a little bit trigger happy from Spurs fans, but it's just the standard of football. Although I've just seen an interesting stat while you were talking that we've created the third most amount of chances in the Premier League this season. Anyway,
wow.
Didn't feel like that, but I think with sort of Venkatesham, this idea, and it's been said by Thomas Frank, they are turning around a cruise liner, a battleship, and it is going to take time, and you cannot just. Then this is what seems to happen with a lot of fans is they'll just base it on signings and where you are in the league, without any kind of ability or willingness rather to see beyond the current situation and understand the challenges that are happening at the football club. You can't. The Tottenham was Daniel Levy. He was the institution in the same way that Abramovich was the institution at Chelsea, and Klopp was the institution at and Wenger and all of these people. They're all. It all takes time to get through it and over it, and so it's down to Venkatesham to get this right. Now, you can only look at what he's done at his previous football club and be impressed by it. Could he be making incorrect decisions, as we've discussed previously, John, about how he should operate and whether or not he should sack the manager because he gave Arteta time and he's going to give Frank time? That's something that will come out in the wash in due course. But at this stage, everybody wants him sacked, and Venkatesham's going, no, don't listen to the noise, carry on doing what you're doing. So, but there's one thing wanting Frank gone and not giving Venkatesham time to build this culture that we so desperately need and build the right staff behind and structure behind the scenes to get it right. You can't just do that overnight. It's not just a case of bringing the same person in. It's how well they're going to work together. Is there a chemistry? Is he going to fit here? Dan Ashworth, for example, went to every single football club, worked for the FA, went to Brighton, did an incredible job, went to Newcastle, an incredible job, went to Manchester United and lasted 4 months and was out. So it's not a binary thing. It's very grey and convoluted and difficult to get right, but you've got to give Venkatesham chances to do that. I mean, you're talking 5 years. I would say, like, forget replacing him. Just let him do what he's got to do, and then hopefully you'll see some increases on the pitch. I weirdly feel that he's going to eventually get it right. Everything's going to be all right at Spurs. That's what I feel.
Yeah, based on absolutely nothing that we're seeing, I'm the same because I feel basically like football is that cyclical thing, and it is small changes that can make things really change very, very quickly. Yeah. And sometimes it isn't what feels right. Like, now everyone is talking about what a great job Emery's doing at Villa, right? And what a brilliant manager he is. And he is, right? There's no doubt about it. And he did a great job before he went to Arsenal. He went to Arsenal and it just didn't work, right? It was the wrong timing, wrong setup.
Straight off the Wenger, wasn't it?
Yeah, it just didn't fit at that moment in time. And this is sort of could be potentially like Thomas Frank, right? Like, it's not that he's a bad manager, it's just a bad fit with us. And that we hire some manager we've never heard of from Racing Santander or Sporting Gijón, and all of a sudden they come in and it just clicks. And we just fly back up the league, we sign a couple of really good players in the summer, and everything just flips around. We're back in the top four and we are literally buzzing. And basically nothing changed, just one major decision can really have an impact. So I think you're right. If you look at these three levels that we've been talking about today, right? What happens on the pitch and the manager, the sporting director or director of football, and then the leadership, there basically is a time horizon for each of those. And as you go up the hierarchy, the time has to be longer to see things through. So like any manager is not going to get 5 years. It's not going to happen. They might not even get 5 months. You have to deliver quickly, and that has to work out quickly. And in my opinion, in my experience in just like business, it's okay to fail. You just got to fail quick, right? So that you can go, we made a mistake, let's move on. Which is why I've got no issue with like, this isn't going to work, right? It's failing, just move him out and try something different because we've seen that this isn't going to work. You move him on. The director of football has to be looking over like this season and next season, right? Who are we going to sign in the next window? How do we think of these things happening? I think we've had enough time with Langer to see that hasn't had enough impact to move the club forward.
Agreed. Yeah.
We saw it with Levy, right? And he did really well for a long period. And then, over time, over those longer time horizons, we saw it wasn't really working. We made a change. And to your point, right? Vinay just hasn't... We haven't had enough of his strategy and his structure to see how effective he will be. So for me, it is a case of like the things that we should be looking to change now is Langer... Right, Paratici is going to go, so that's one less headache. Yeah. Is Langer and potentially like Frank, that both of those need to be moved on. Now, it is just a matter of how much you want to destabilise or stabilise the club in terms of what order that goes. Is it sensible to just scrape by, as long as we're not looking like we're going to go down, and just get to summer, get rid of both and start again? It is sensible. I can actually see a world where that does make sense. I think I would make a managerial change if it was me. But I can see the logic of let's just get to summer and then we'll reassess this. Yeah,
I've never seen a manager at a club like Spurs survive what Frank's has this. It's just been terrible. But I do wonder, given the fact that Frank is a data-driven and there's data-driven aspect to every club, as there should be, that sort of underlying numbers mean that we're in a, I don't know if they do, but a false position and they're looking at something. But yeah, it's surprising to me that he's still in the job. It really is. And look, you look at what happened to us at Arsenal and how we played, and you look at what Man United did to them at the weekend.
Yeah,
and that's just playing with a bit of belief and getting at them.
Yeah,
it doesn't instill it. I don't think he's the right man for the job. I don't mind if he's now effectively an interim manager to the end of the season, and we replace him with someone that is. I don't know. Do you have faith that they're going to, if he makes it to the end of the season, that he is going to be sacked? Do you know? I don't know. I think it may be that they say, well, let's try again and give him the summer. I don't know.
Yeah, and look, this will be the test, right? If let's say we finish 16th, like we joked, and we got to semi-final of the Champions League, but it was like season ticket renewals are way down, booing every home game.
Yeah,
it has to get to a point where they have to decide whether or not the club commercially wants to stick with someone.
I mean, there's empty tickets every game, mate.
This is it.
You look on the exchange and they're just everywhere. People just will stop turning up. So, and that is the case. They have to act, and the football has to be better. You do look at stats like, and it's true, that stat, by the way. I just had to check it up. I saw it on Twitter and I was like, that doesn't sound right. In terms of stat, this is on StatMuse. I don't know if you ever use that. It's pretty good. It's quite interesting. Especially if you want to, something to support your agendas, because you can find anything on here.
No, I say anything, mate, and just say, so have you heard about this stat? And then just say whatever I want because no one checks them. There's that stat about how many stats are made up. I'm in that percentage. I am basically responsible for most of that percentage of made up stuff.
Do you know who's our best rated player this season? Based on StatMuse.
Let's go.
You won't
with.
Guess. You won't guess.
Okay, don't know then. Kinski, Romero,
Ben Davies.
Fuck it hell. But there's got to be some sort of like minimum amount of games before these stats come in. 'Cause like when you go, oh yeah, this player got a 100% clean sheet record and scored a goal and got an assist. It's like, yeah, because they played one game where they got a clean sheet, scored and got an assist. It's just like nonsense, isn't it? It's got to be a minimum threshold to make it through. Mate, I asked for questions, but we covered a lot of the stuff that people asked us. But someone, THFC American, said, can Flav make it through a pod without mentioning wanking, sex, porn, difficulty level, impossible? Well, we've done it. We made it through.
Yeah. I mean, I'll talk about whatever I want to talk about on my podcast. So,
So
I wouldn't cheapen this podcast with such depravity. But we all do it. Why are you so stuck up about it?
I know, innit? But I thought Americans were obsessed with like freedom of speech. Like we say whatever we want on here. I mean, this is mainly a sort of drinking-based podcast. That's the sort of main.
You
sort
haven't
of
had a single drink. I've been watching.
I have, but I've just
have you? Oh, well, some sort of Barocca.
Yeah, Barocca.
Should
I just get
Barocca
one?
man, aren't you? Yeah, get
Yeah,
one.
mate. Should I get one? Hang on.
Yeah, go on.
That's one for the fans.
I've never known a man to have as much Barocca as you do.
I have one every day. I have one every single day.
I mean, it's not a bad thing. It doesn't make your I'm cheapening this, but your piss orange.
Mate, it makes it luminous.
Yeah.
It's like, if I don't have them, obviously, but if I had those, what they call the dark lights, if I had the lights off and went for a wee, all you'd see is this stream of like luminous piss. But yeah, I started taking it because I thought they were just for hangovers. And then someone was like, you're supposed to take this every day, and they're not just like for hangovers. Yeah. And I was like, all right, okay, fine. So I started doing it, and I don't know if it's a placebo, but I don't get anywhere near as many colds or like, especially in the winter, I just don't get as ill. So who knows? But I'm not getting sponsored by Barocca, so I don't know why I'm giving them so much props. But if you are listening, anyone from the Barocca marketing team, I am available for sponsorship. So make it happen. Yeah, this slurp was sponsored by Barocca. Oh, mate, Vimto, is that just pre-made or is that squash?
I'm not drinking it. I'm not drinking pure Vimto from the bottle. I just, I was just walking through. I had to go and pick up some. I can't remember. I was getting something from Poundland, and I just saw it on the side. I was like, £1 bottle. I fucking love a little Vimto. I really do. So I was like, I'm gonna get the Vimto. So
just get it in, mate. Do you know what you just reminded me of? There was a rumour going around at school that one of the lads. Do you remember Oasis, the drink?
Yeah, of course. With the glass bowl.
Yeah, someone made a rumour that one of the lads in my year
shoved it up his ass,
lost his virginity to an Oasis bottle, having sex with it.
Mate, there was some great banter when we was at school. There was a guy who, where he had, what's it called when you have two coloured eyes, different colours?
Yeah, I know the one you mean. It's like a really rare thing, isn't it? Yeah.
But he also had flex. He had the most beautiful eyes you'll ever see. Like if you're
stunning.
Yeah, if you like as an adult, you'd be like, "This, I'm going to clean up." But obviously, naturally, as 15-year-old boys, we didn't do that. Yeah, we just said that his eyes went like that because he's looking at too many men's bums. That's why his eyes were like. That was the rumour that went around town.
It's so ridiculous, isn't it? I think I told you about there was two lads having a fight in a playground at lunchtime, and then one of them ran inside, and then basically he'd shit himself so badly that it was all up the walls and everything. And then in my school, if you'd had to go home, so if you were ill or whatever, you had to wait in reception. And normally that'd be fine because the reception's at the front of the school and all of the classrooms and all of the social areas were at the back of the school. But on this specific day was half year assembly, which only happened once every other month or something mental.
Yeah.
So half of my entire year group had to walk basically through reception to go to the front assembly hall, which wasn't even the main assembly hall. They only did it for half year assembly. And so now you've got the entire half year. He's got his blazer on, his shirt on, his tie on, and then because he'd shit himself, they'd just given him lost properties.
Yeah, of course.
He's just sitting in some Umbro sports shorts. he's black US brass shoes or kickers or whatever. And everyone's walking past and they know he shit himself. It was completely degraded. I know, but he was waiting to get picked up. So they just. So everyone's just
reception. Don't
him.
fucking hell, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to say his name, but he was just after that. He was just affectionately known as Shit. That was it. All right, Shit. That was it.
There was a boy in my school, and someone went to his house after school, and his mum had obviously been on the blob, right? So she's just had a wee, and there's a little blood in the pan, right? Completely normal, not even a thing worth even bringing up. Yeah. Of course, it got brought up.
Of course,
Went back and went to his house, and there was blood in the toilet. And he's from that day onwards, his name was Benjamin Bloodclot Sinclair.
Quite a sick nickname.
Yeah, it is actually, yeah.
Perfect. Well, there you go. On that note, mate, thanks very much for joining me on the first ever guest version of the Big John Bash Show. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to smash up City, and if we don't, it's good anyway, because fuck Arsenal, innit?